Hey everybody, welcome to Grind Time. I am so excited because I get to the privilege of interviewing with somebody that I look up to a whole lot. I'm here with Cody Askins, right here in Springfield, Missouri. Man, had a blast all day today, and really, we kind of got onto some different discussions today, and I think it'll be kind of helpful for many of the agents that are going to be watching this. First. I know that at everything that you've been doing, and you've been in the industry for quite a while.
A decade, yeah.
A decade. That's a long time.
It's true.
And you're probably not 2 decades old, right?
No, barely. Same age. I just hit 30, man. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
And been in this industry for a decade. To see what you're doing, man, is completely unbelievable. I think so many people could benefit from your perspective 10 years later. Right. And so if we kind of could at least take a small dive toward just the beginning of this, if you could remember back 10 years ago, describe to me how you got into insurance.
So my father's been in the business for 30 years. I guess it'll be 31 years in a few months. And I was one of those kids that didn't go to school for career day and say, I'm going to be an insurance agent. I was like, I don't know if it's for me. Right. However, I was an intern making cold calls out of a phone book, an actual phone book, which is illegal. Right. But I had no freaking clue. And I was making those cold calls for a veteran agent, having some success, doing okay, pounding the phones, etc. And I was seeing the kind of money some of these agents were making. And I'm like you said earlier, I'm like, dude, if they can do it, I can too. You guys watching, you're probably thinking, man, if they can do it, I can too. And I was the same way. And so I decided to become a full-time agent. Went to but at the time I'm 20, because I was 19 as an intern. I'm 20. I'm taking 21 credit hours a semester my first few years at a little Baptist Bible College. I'm playing basketball. I'm a full-time student athlete. Could use a lot of excuses. I didn't have time, right? And I didn't have a ton. But I went to my first recruiting meeting, and the managers had all of us stand up. So we all stand up, and he's like, hey, take a look around. And I'm like, okay. What's up? What's the point of this, right? And then he says, okay, now all of you but one of you sit down. And he left some other dude standing, which irritated me a little bit too, right? I'm like, come on now. But I didn't know what really was happening. And he's like, maybe one of you will make it. I'm like, well, this is real positive. I'm out. I'm leaving. No, I'm like, dang. So I committed in that moment, and I told myself, because I as we all do, I talk to myself a lot. And I said, if there's going to be a one, I will be the one. And I told the manager that too. And I set a goal, because I'm big on goals. Anytime I remember being 16 years old and scoring 41 points in a basketball game when the senior, the best player, couldn't play, because I set out a goal. I said, for us to win, I got to score crap ton of points. I got to go to the rim every freaking time because I couldn't shoot a lick. I still can't, right? I'm like Russell Westbrook, right? I can't shoot brick, but I can go to the rim. And I had a goal I had a goal as a new agent. I said, not only will I succeed and be the one, but I will earn $100,000 my first year. And I'm selling one product, one carrier, 35% commission level, cold calling, cold door knocking, full-time student athlete. If we could name some negatives, if we could make some excuses, I had them, right? But I didn't know any better, right? It's actually better when you don't know any better. When you're like, I have these excuses, but I don't know they're supposed to be excuses yet. And which is a great place to be. And I wrote down, I will earn $100,000 my first year in the insurance business. I dated it, I signed it, and I hung it up on the wall of my cubicle. And every single day I went out to make that a reality. Wrote it down every day in my goal book that I will earn $100,000 this year. I will make $2,000 this week. I will sit down and ask 10 people to buy this week, all these things. And I look back now and I'm like, okay, most people don't make $100,000 their first year in the insurance business. You did as well, but crazy rare.
Right.
I bet 0.1% actually do it. 1 out of 1,000 probably. And I remember saying, okay, how am I going to do this? Started breaking down the numbers, figuring it out. Realized I need to sit with 10 people, set 15, sit 10, sell 5. The general adage. And so I started cold calling. I would have insurance agent, or I'm sorry, college students come to my office on Monday nights. We'd have call nights. I'd give them a script. I'd give them a cubicle. I'd give them a phone. I'd pump them up. I'd get them excited. I'd call with them. I'd give them gift cards. I'd buy pizza, like all this other stuff. Pay them per appointment, $10 per appointment for the first 2, $20 per appointment for the third one, and every one after, and then $20 for the winner for the night. Made it competitive. I'd have 3, 4, 5 college kids calling. If they didn't they didn't get anything.
Right.
And which is pretty good for me.
Right.
Looking back, I'm like, that was a smart business decision. And I would walk out of there with 8, 10, 12, 16, 20, sometimes 24 appointments for the whole week. And my week would be booked. I didn't have time, but I created time. I didn't know how intelligent that was back then. And when I didn't have appointments, I would go, and the reason with those appointments, we were cold calling, so like 60% wouldn't show up or like stand you up or whatever. It was cold calls from some college kids. Like, let's get
Absolutely.
it real. Yeah. But if I had a Friday, I was open. Like I remember one Friday going to Willow Springs, Missouri, leaving at like 11 o'clock from college, getting out there at, 12:30, and door knocking like 150 doors. And I set a goal that I wanted to sell 6 life insurance policies from cold door knocking in one day. And I started at lunch because of school. And I remember it was like 9 o'clock at night. And I got through about 120 doors and had 5 sales. Mm-hmm. Or it was close to 9. And I'm like, gosh, dang it, I haven't hit it yet. So I went to another complex because I had tapped out that complex. So I went to another complex. These are senior housing facilities. And then the other one was just like an apartment building. And I started knocking. And it got to where it was close to 9, after 9. I got in one at like 9:30. And I was like, this is my last chance. This is it, man. Like, there's no chance. There's no going back now. Like, I'm hitting the goal now. So I stayed for like an hour and a half, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Got the sale, hit my 6, and drove home. And I've had pivotal moments like that I set a goal. And so in my first 8 months, cold calling, cold door knocking, no leads ever, made $117,361.13.
Wow. In your first 8 months.
8 months, yes, because I took the last 4 off to go back into school and basketball and focus on it. Now, I wish I wouldn't have. I say that, but I did.
Yeah. Thinking 8 months in this business, I mean, and you had no leads, right? That's crazy in my opinion, because I come from door knocking too, just not for insurance. Yep. And what drove me here was leads, right? It was like I was trying to get away from door knocking, and there's people, that's going to be watching this thing. It's like, man, I'm working leads right now, and this thing is tough. Why were you able to find a way to make that work? Outside of just, obviously you've been competitive and you were in sports, but you didn't have leads. You were in the new industry. You're freaking 18 years old at that time, right. 19 years old. And you were able to put together a team of people to come together and freaking solve a problem where most people would have been like, I don't know where to start. Like,
That's right.
What was it about you?
At the time, I didn't realize it, but I was pretty good at saying I was going to do something and then creatively finding a way to get it done. And I still believe that today, and it still holds true. But I remember I had some pivotal moments in my life that really shaped everything I'm doing. My parents are unbelievable. I remember being 16 years old, going to a little Apple Market grocery store in Rogersville, Missouri, just down the street actually. And I was supposed to go to work at 4. It was like 3:30, and I was throwing up. I went to my dad. I'm like, I don't feel like going to work today. I don't think I want to go. And he said something to me that I still listen to today. Like, I went to Orlando in 2019, and I got in at long story short, I went to 3 conferences, 3 different days, 3 different states, and I got in at like 2 a.m. finally. And I was supposed to be at some breakfast and speak at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And I always work out because I don't speak without working out. It's an energy thing, right? Like this. I'm like, dude, Jeremy Whitaker's coming to town. I'm freaking working out today.
Right.
And that time, I got up, didn't want to, Like, because everybody else is like, dude, there's times I do not want to wake up. I do not want to get up. And I didn't. And I woke up 6:30, 6:15, whatever it was. Got a quick workout in, jumped on the treadmill for a little bit, pumped some weights, jumped in the shower, got dressed, and got there like 7:30, 8 o'clock. And had one of the best speeches of my life. And I was exhausted, no sleep. But what my dad told me when I was 16 that I wanted to come back to is, you do, because I didn't want to go in. He's like, you do whatever you want. But you know what I would do. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I went to work. And I still remember that today. Like, when I don't want to go to work, I do it anyway.
Wow. And that's powerful. I mean, learning, and it for me, I'd say, what was it like to have a dad like that? Because of the fact that, so many people, we think about the actions that we're doing right now, right? And me doing it for me, and I'm trying to earn a better income, or I want to build this bigger life, and you don't look around and see the people looking back at you and going, I'm really doing it so that one day Cody Askins, I can let him know, hey, you know what I would do, right? Mm-hmm. Because if Dad hadn't have done that, you wouldn't know what that looked like. You're like, oh,
exactly.
Yeah, I know what you do. You'd stay at home, and you would have stayed at home, right? That's big. Going kind of down a good path, because you've come so far in this business, right? And you're number one insurance agent right now.
From like a trainer.
When's the last time you sold an insurance policy?
Oh, I'll sell the occasional to like the team or myself, or like warm market, or somebody messages me or something. Like I'll sell life insurance. I'll pass all the Medicare stuff, but life insurance I'll sell occasionally, not much. But like actually called a lead, went out and sold life insurance, I'd say probably 2017 maybe.
2017.
If I had to guess.
2017. So I
made calls since then on like some live dials and stuff, but I didn't actually run the appointments.
Right. So you were 6 years in the business, right, before you made the switch from going out and helping clients and being completely all in the field to building what you've got here at 8%. So how did that happen? Like how do you go from insurance agent to how does the whole 8% concept even come about for you?
Yeah. I always knew that I was meant to help salespeople succeed. I felt it when I was doing those call nights. Like, I don't know what it was, but I had a way of elevating them and building a team to do something miraculous in a short amount of time with a group of people that don't know each other. Mm-hmm. Like, I was a natural-born sales leader, sales trainer that I didn't know existed at the time. And when it was available, I enjoyed it so much more than going out and selling an insurance policy. For example, I had a manager call me as a new agent after I made $9,000 my first month and had some good months, several months in a row. And he's like, I've got 2 new agents. They're 4 hours north of you, maybe a little farther, and they're struggling to make sales at all. Can you come help them? And I'm like, well, all I know is I'll take them door knocking, Like, we'll go door knocking. And we went door knocking. Remember, their names were Greg and Hunter. We went door knocking. First home we get in, make a sell. Next home we get in, make a sell. Next home we get in, make a sell. Cold door knocking. And we finished the day with 4 or 5 apps, in probably a 6-8 hour period, if not longer. And left the business with them, didn't take any commission, and drove home. And I still remember like the look on their face when they see me running through this appointment, high-fiving the prospect, having a ton of fun. Because with door knocking, dude, you got to bring some energy.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, like as well as anybody. And I drove home thinking, man, if I get a chance to do this again, I'm going to take it. I enjoyed today more than any other day I've ever had in a sales capacity. And in that moment, I knew I was meant to do this, man. I was meant to do this. And so it was a light bulb, a moment for me. And now, several years passed, I kept selling. But I always knew there was something more. Like I had those moments along the way that I knew I was meant to do something bigger and different. But you kind of like, push it to the side every now and then in life when you have a voice or whatever.
Yeah.
And I did. And then December of 2015, I think December 29th, 2015, I put up my first YouTube video. And I'm like, I'm going to start a local mentorship program. I'm going to recruit and help some local agents. I'm going to start a YouTube channel, et cetera. And I put up the first video. I think I got like 7 views, and like 4 of them were me, and 3 of them were my mom. Like, you go back and look at the old videos. They're horrible. Jeremy's way better at video already than I was. But just like selling insurance, because I would have days where I'd book 12 appointments, like every hour on the hour.
Right.
And get stood up by 7, and the other 5 would tell me no. And I'd have 0 days. You know what I mean? Like, we all have those days. And I'm like, holy freak. Is this for me? Right.
Right.
And I remember back when insurance, like, I showed up the next day anyway. And so I kept putting out videos. Just kept doing it. I said, don't look at the views. Don't look at the stupid comments that you get every now and then from haters, right? Just do you. Just keep putting it out. Keep showing up. Do it anyway, right? So I did. And I looked back in 6 to 12 months. Didn't have a lot of subscribers, probably 300 or 400. But insurance agents from around the country, not in groves, were reaching out. Hey, I resonate with your content. Hey, your video on cold calling is really helping me in my cold calling endeavors. Hey, your video on door knocking. Man, I've started door knocking and I'm making sales now. Hey, I thought about quitting, but I found your stuff and I'm not going to quit anymore. And I would get these messages that would come in and comments, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I got something here, man. Like, I think I got something special. Yeah, very few people had watched it. But I've always felt like, because I've followed Cardone for like 7 years, like before even most people even knew he existed.
Right.
Like I was always looking for something, like I said at Nate's conference, like I've been studying successful people since I was like 15,
right.
And I got to where agents started reaching out. Like, hey, can we buy leads from you? Hey, can you train us? Hey, do you have any events? Right? Et cetera, et cetera. And it's morphed into what you see today simply because I just kept showing up and kept putting out valuable content. For the first 13 months, I didn't try to monetize at all, like, and actually selling anything. I didn't have a website. Like, it didn't matter. Wow. The point was just to help people, right? And that's still what drives us today. Wow.
That's big. And so coming from where does I didn't know if I heard that in that response. Where does 8% nation even come from? What does that mean?
So 92% of insurance agents fail statistically. And I've been saying that on my videos since 2015. And I went to 10X Growth Conference with Cardone, paid $15,000 to go to his conference after going to his office and meeting him and getting sold some tickets. And I'm like, and I'm glad I did, by the way. And it was more money than I'd ever spent on personal development, like way more. And this was like January 2018, Mm-hmm. And which really isn't that long ago, I guess, if you think about it. And I go to the conference, I sit front row, and I'm like, holy freak, this is incredible. Oh my gosh, I'm so motivated. I thought I was a big fish, and all these people are freaking killing me. They're crushing me, man.
Right.
But I thought our industry needs something like this. So I went back, told my wife, told my dad, told my mom. I put up a post in a Facebook group. I thought it was going to be a final expense only conference, by the way. And I just put something out. And you'd be surprised at the amount of people that were like hating on the idea, right? And I remember, fast forward a few months, I'm sitting in a pool and I think Memorial Day weekend, like in May or something of that year. And I go ahead and my dad's like, you should do a conference. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, I should. And we only had like 1,000, 2,000 subscribers then too, by the way. And I'm like, okay. Well, I'm like, well, what's something I always say that I could tie the conference to that would fit brand and theme wise? And I'm like, 8%. I talk about 92%, but I don't ever talk about 8%.
That's right.
92% is a little negative. 8% is a little positive.
That's a positive.
So we'll call it 8% Nation. And so we released it in July for an October event right in the middle of Medicare and health insurance season, which wasn't smart either, but whatever. When I get something, man, dude, I'm going. I don't care what anybody else thinks, man. And get Grant Cardone, Ray Lewis, spend $500,000.
Wow.
When I shouldn't have. And it was one of the coolest days of my life, like to have a conference like that. I'd never spoke before. I paid to speak one time before that. And we just learned so much. I'd never even thrown a birthday party before. Like, it turned out really well because we had a good team behind me that could help. But it was that was the coolest thing. I mean, like the most like super impressive sales thing I've done. You know, first year was very impressive for not knowing anything sales wise and do 117 grand. But to pull off a conference, people don't realize how difficult it is to throw an event, to get people in a room. Most of the time, special things don't happen until you get in the room. But to get people to show up and get in the room is really, really, really difficult. Mm-hmm. And so we've been doing that ever since. We just finished number 3 and had one of the only industry conferences during COVID.
The only, I think. I don't know if I've seen any other ones. To
I
be
don't
honest.
think so either.
Maybe a couple virtual ones, right?
Yeah.
But the only in-person, face-to-face. You did that. You did that, man.
Thanks, bro.
I appreciate it. It was a good time.
I'm glad you were there, man. Thanks for coming.
If I had to kind of go with that theme, right? Because you're talking somebody who's never done an event, mm-hmm. limited speaking, time on stage. You said you paid to speak at one other event before your own.
Only
right?
Because I knew I was like, I don't want my first keynote to be at my own event.
And then you have the audacity to hire Grant Cardone, Ray Lewis, like some of these huge names. Yeah. And it's your first one. Where does this? I noticed when I walk into your office, the first thing I see is think big. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I think a lot of agents came into this industry with big thinking, like this could be something huge for me, like this could be the opportunity I was waiting on. But I don't know if they think on that higher level, right, about what this business can be. What's the importance of those two words to you? Think big.
It's what changed everything. It's when I have an idea and I know I should do something. I follow through and do it. Like, we all have ideas. We all think about doing stuff. We all want a certain life. We all want this and that. But very few actually follow through and do it. And for me, the bigger I think, the more I force myself. Like, what's really unique, and I want people to hear, is there's never been anything that I've released to the public that I said I was going to do, as scared as I was, that I wasn't able to pull off. What that means is I am still not pushing myself to the limits, because everything I do doesn't fail.
Wow, that's big.
So if that's the case, then why don't I keep doing it bigger and bigger and push the envelope and push the envelope and do it and do it? Because what think big means to me is I have to keep thinking bigger. I have to keep one-upping myself. And it's not even a competitive thing with anybody else in the industry. It's a competitive thing of, if I think big enough, my potential is ridiculous. Even though I never dreamed it actually was 5 years ago, it is insane what we can look back, the two of us, in 30 years. Holy freaking crap, man. Like, it can be unbelievable. And as a kid, I used to tell myself, I don't know where this comes from, but I used to believe that I could do anything. Like, I would tell my sisters as a kid, like, if I want to pick up tennis and be a professional tennis player, I can. Now, I was wrong. However, I don't know where that comes from, because I had so much confidence in myself. And a little bit of it's ego every now and then, right? Like you said earlier, I got to, like, check myself before I wreck myself,
Right.
Like, I'm focused on being a humble individual and checking that. I don't know where that came from. Like, I've always had this internal confidence that whatever I want to do, I can do. I can achieve. And there's never been anything that we've released that we haven't been able to pull off yet, which means I'm still not thinking big enough.
Man. And to think, how big you're thinking, You know, to a lot of people, that's like, man, what is he thinking? He's not thinking. Like, what is he talking about? He's not thinking big enough. A lot of people can't conceive what you've already done, and it's really special what you're doing in the industry. The 8% of people, if we were talking about, you know, the positive spin on that, and what are they doing differently than the 92%?
They are putting in more activity. They are showing up anyway. They are making the extra call, making the extra door knock. Like, the only reason we ever fell in the industry is because we quit.
That's right.
We only quit. We only fail because we quit. We only quit because we didn't make enough money. We only don't make it. We didn't make enough money because we didn't ask enough people to buy. We didn't ask people to buy because we didn't sit with enough people. We didn't sit with enough people because we didn't set enough. We didn't set enough because we didn't talk to enough. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk to enough because we didn't put any effort in, or we didn't put enough effort in. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's because people quit, and you shouldn't. But it comes down to, like I talked about it lately, it comes down to three things. Anybody wants to hit a goal, it comes down to three things: effort, skill, and knowledge. You can control your effort 100%. If you want your skill to improve and you to be freaking incredible from a skill perspective, you can be. If you want to know whatever Jeremy Whitaker or anybody else knows, you can know it. Trust me. So if you can improve your skill and you can know what everybody else knows, then the only thing holding you back is effort. And that is, I'm showing up when I don't want to show up. I'm going the extra mile when I don't want to do it. And I'm choosing to put forth enough effort to raise my skill level through time. I'm choosing to raise how much information I know over time.
Mm. If you could think back, I know it's probably been years since you've had it happen, but if you could think of any year in particular where you felt like, man, because a lot of people are coming out of 2020 in a different position than you, right? Like they're not doing the same sorts of the big things that you're doing. They're just now getting into this industry, and they're thinking, I just want this part of it to work. You know, was there any years like that for you that was just like, man, this ain't going the way that I want it to go? And or maybe it started that way and you course corrected. What was that? What did that look like? What's maybe one of the most challenging times of your insurance career?
Yeah, I mean, I remember early 2014, like selling and had all these carriers to look at and didn't know what to do, and I let all these details delay me from taking action. Or I was trying to find easier ways. Like everybody, like what's funny is an agent will make $5,000 in a week, and the next week what they'll think is, okay, how can I do that again without having to work as hard? What? That was me a lot.
Right.
That was me a lot. It's stupid. But I'm always looking for a better way. I'm always looking for a more creative way. And I didn't realize this. I used to tell myself I'm not very creative. I'm one of the most creative people I know because my brain is always flipping, moving. Like I think of ideas like I'm eating candy. Like it's just one after another, after another, after another. And that has helped a ton with what I'm doing now, but it held me back as an agent at times because it's easy for me to like squirrel, right? Mm-hmm. And instead of just doing what made me successful and doing it again and doing more of it and doing it better and raising my skill level, instead I'm like, okay, now how can I make $250,000 a year and never talk to anyone? What? It's ridiculous.
That's good. Man. So what I'm hearing is, listen, dude, find that routine, find that rhythm, and stick to it. Right?
Correct.
I talk a lot, and I've done a couple videos about, just routine itself. Yeah. I think a lot of times if we can keep this same clear, precise, mm-hmm. That I know exactly what I'm doing this week. I know on Friday I'm going to get on the phone, I'm going to call and I'm going to set some appointments, and on Monday and Tuesday I'm going to go out there and I'm going to run them, right? And I'm going to do some door knocking in between. I know, like, this is the way it's laid out on my calendar every single time. And then we think, oh, well, I love how you said it. I can go out, and I know it took me 15 appointments, and I had to sit down 10 times. to get my $5,000. But this week I know, I want to make $5,000 again, but I'm only going to book 8 appointments. I'll see if that works, right? And we do it, and it's a little insane.
Yeah, it is. Oh, worse results. Weird.
Right. Now I need less activities. Like, what did you just take yourself to insurance school? Did you just get better over 1 week?
I got 1,000% better, guaranteed. Overnight.
So, if I'm an agent, maybe I'm looking like, man, I know that this business, this industry can provide so much more for me, right? Like I'm in a place where I'm like, I feel like I'm doing it. I feel like I'm winning, right? And I've been here before. And actually, when I met you, I was here. I feel like I'm winning. I feel like I'm doing all the right things. I just can't seem to get to that next level.
Yep.
Right? Can't seem to break through whatever that glass ceiling. For me, it was I can't seem to duplicate what I'm doing throughout my team. Right? And I started working with you. We started working on some things, and now duplication's there. What advice do you give to that agent? Maybe that's a part of the 8% already. Right? Like he's been here a couple of years.
Yep.
But he needs to go to the next level.
The main thing I do to constantly level up, to constantly pull myself in a new direction, and to really change everything in a positive way, is I always have some type of really big target that's in the near future. And what that does is it constantly, well, maybe it's an event, right? It constantly pulls me in that direction. Like we released a Texas training tour. We're going to Texas, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Austin. And I released it 2 weeks before we're supposed to go with no signups. Mm-hmm. And I did it because I knew if I forced myself to pay attention, I would pull it off. And so what I do is I set crazy high targets. I make them public. I want everyone to know. I make it in a very short period of time, and I force me and my team to pull it off. And by doing that, it forces me to level up. Because what happens is a lot of people set goals. A lot of people are making $200,000 or $300,000, $400,000. You're doing okay, whatever, right? And in our industry, they can get egos. Oh, it's a ton of money and everything else, right? But it's good money, but it's like, come on now. There's more available.
Right.
Number one. But what happens is those goals, if I set one and I don't hit it, I told a team this morning, they had a life insurance goal to do $100K in total collected life insurance premium as a P&C agency. Different deal, but
right.
They only put up $75K last year. And they're like, okay, we have the same goal this year. And I'm like, why? They're like, well, what do you mean why? We didn't hit it. I'm like, well, you didn't hit it because it wasn't important enough. You didn't hit it because you weren't serious enough. You didn't hit it because it wasn't big enough. What I'm learning is that the bigger the goal is, the more it challenges me. If I set a realistic, attainable, all this other BS goal, it's not going to challenge me. It's not going to get my attention. And guess what? I'm not going to hit it. So I told him, I'm like, hey, let's double down. Let's get more serious. Let's raise the goal. Let's start training twice a day. Let's start asking every single person we talk to the life insurance question. I went through the room. I'm like, how many people do y'all talk to? The 5 people, they talk to 130 people a day total. P&C, claims, service, sales,
right.
Whatever, right? Home and auto, all that. I'm like, if 10% were actually interested in at least a quote, or maybe you can make them a lead, then guess what? You've got 13 new leads a day. Mm-hmm. Bam. I'm like, then, because it was 32,500 conversations a year for them. I'm like, if 10% have an interest, you have 3,250 leads. If 10% of those actually do it, that's 1% of your total amount of conversations for the whole year. You just added 325 new life insurance applications to your company. You didn't hit it because it wasn't important. You didn't hit it because nobody talked about it. You didn't hit it because it wasn't a target that was big enough that challenged you. It was too small. You didn't hit it because it wasn't visual. You didn't hit it because you didn't track it. You didn't hit it because you didn't train on it. So they raised it.
Wow. Talk about it. Teach it. Train. Like it, that goal's got to be big.
Yes.
Right. It's what I'm hearing. And then it's got to be one that's almost scares you enough to back you in the corner. If I start talking about it, what happens? right? People are hearing me now. They're waiting on it. Now, if you've got this tour in Texas and you've already announced it, and I'm waiting on you to come by Dallas, guess what? If you don't come, what does that make you?
Exactly.
Right? And so that's big. That's key. And you just backed yourself into a corner.
Yep. Because if I don't hit it, and making it public's huge, like you said, because what happens is if I say I'm going to do it and I don't, or I flop, guess what? I have embarrassed myself. And every now and then it's going to happen, right? But I want to put myself in a position where I'm either a hero or a flipping zero.
Yeah.
And when you do that and you back yourself in a corner, you force yourself to perform at a higher level. You force yourself to wake up. You force yourself to pay attention.
Man, this has been phenomenal so far. And you know, the truth is, I mean, I can see the evidence of, and if you're listening to Cody for the first time and you've never heard of Cody Askins before, first off, go to his freaking channel. Where can they find you?
Cody Askins, CODYASKINS.
Cody Askins, and all of your material, and you've got, literally workshops, and you've got sales stuff for life insurance, for final expense, Medicare, all kinds of stuff on there.
Yep. You can go to CodyAskins.com to check it all out.
I'll ask you this to kind of close us up. A lot of folks are here, there again, and come into contact with me and join, our team, Team No Sleep, and work with the whole Whitaker setup, because, well, we're looking there again to live and build a certain type of lifestyle.
That's right.
If you had to look and compare 19-year-old Cody, 18-year-old Cody coming in here to 30-year-old Cody, what's the difference in your lifestyle right now? What's life look like, and how's it changed over that period of time from a lifestyle standpoint?
From a lifestyle standpoint, from like things I have, or okay,
what's that look like? I mean, I think so many times as insurance agents, and especially amongst each other, we feel like I don't want to brag about what's going on.
That's true.
But the only thing
you gave me an excuse to, though, by asking me.
The only thing that keeps me going is knowing, how good Cody's doing, how good my mentor's doing. Because I want to live at that level too. So what's that look like for you? What can, if I am willing to do the same sort of things that you were willing to do and execute on the same way that you're willing to execute on, what's life get to look like for me?
Yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 companies. Maybe we got a couple others we're looking at starting soon, but about 5 companies. 2021 we'll do over $10 million in revenue. My wife and I just bought a $750,000 home. Just bought a new Audi Q8.
Yeah, this thing's sweet too.
Thanks, buddy. I love that. I've been eyeing those for years. Looking at buying a plane this year. That's been a huge goal of mine for so long. I write it down every day. Like, dude, I have to have it because I'm traveling so much. And nobody likes flying commercial. Like, let's be honest.
No,
it's like they're like herding a herd of cattle. It's awful. I hate it. And I always wanted a Porsche or a nice car or a Ferrari, but I haven't bought those type of cars yet because I tell my wife I want to earn it first. She's like, "What the freak are you talking about? Like, what do you mean?" I'm like, "No. I want to earn it." And part of me is always afraid of like buying something for me, because I don't buy a lot of stuff for me. I really don't.
Right.
I just don't need to. I don't need it. Like, that's, you know what I mean? But I don't, because I've always been afraid that if I got a certain thing that I always wanted, that I would like stop showing up. I would stop putting in the effort. I know that's not true, but it's still like this mental thing where I'm like, I want to keep operating at the same frequency, if not faster and better and bigger thinking than I am now. And I don't want it to slow down ever. So I bought my wife a Porsche Cayenne SUV, brand new last year, for her instead of me. So
there we go. So it kind of still worked out anyway.
It did. It did. But super blessed, grateful for everything we have. Have an amazing wife. We've been married for 7.5 years. She's awesome. And I know that We are nowhere near where we will be as long as we keep thinking bigger and don't slow down.
Man, keep thinking bigger. Don't slow down. It's been phenomenal to get to sit with you and interview you one-on-one. You kill it every single time. You're an inspiration to me. I know I've enjoyed every second of working with you in 2020 and looking forward to what 2021 brings us, man.
You got it, man. Thank you so much for having me on your channel.
Hey, grind time, everybody. Go look him up. Make sure, think big, take action. Become Cody. I like it. We'll see y'all soon.